Happy 4th of July. Welcome to the show, Proof of Work. Just want to do, obviously, get all our sponsors in at the beginning. I want to thank, obviously, the team at Quantum Expeditions, doing the mining down there off Flare Gas in West Texas. I want to thank our sponsors at Quantum Expeditions, Shieldfolio, and obviously I think it's Deorganized Media is our last one, and obviously all the family on the Bitcoin Live Network. If you have a show, thank you to everyone who has a show. Thank you for Nick and his brother putting it together, and thank you, Nick, for helping out as always. But today's big show is pretty much about how and why stacking sats is vital now. And we're going to start out with some fun stuff. So I got, one of my new favorite X accounts on about Bitcoin is called FOMO21. We talked about him last show. Now Michael Saylor's talking about him. Remember, I'm always ahead of everybody on stuff. Just remember that. But this one is literally a commercial for the show. So I'm going to go back and we're just going to enjoy this. And again, happy 4th.
What do you look for in a man?
It's important to me that he's a whole coiner.
Is stack size important to you?
I'm looking for at least 6.15.
Biggest turn-ons?
Hardware wallet in his sock drawer.
What makes you feel safe in a relationship?
When he holds his own keys and runs a node. That's like so hot.
Yeah. What's a red flag for you?
He holds XRP. Oh my God, worse than a red flag.
She's not asking for much, just proof of work.
Proof of work. And
what do you look for in a man?
Again,
it's important to me that
the other thing we want to point out is when these videos are zoomed in, you should be able to tell they're AI from a mile away, right? Like zoomed out, it's kind of a little hard to tell, but zoomed in, it looks like a fancy cartoon, like, right? It looks like anime. So another reason that the anime generations won't be fooled by AI as much as the boomers and older, because it looks like a cartoon, right? It's good stuff, hilarious. I wanted to share another one. Let me go back. I just gotta close out of here. Give me 1 sec. There is a 4th of July one too. Oh, here it is. We're gonna pause it, rewind it.
If you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have the time to try to convince you, sorry.
It might make sense just to get some in case it catches on.
It's very attractive to the libertarian viewpoint if we can explain it properly.
The root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work.
Lost coins only make everyone else's coins worth slightly more. Think of it as a donation to everyone.
This 4th of July, spread freedom by spreading the word of Satoshi.
So if you are a really big Bitcoiner, you would know that those are actually quotes from Satoshi himself. And I think in his communications with other people, if you go to the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, there's a tab where it's like all of Satoshi's like quotes and writings, emails, and they're all in there. And that last one is directly from Satoshi. If, coins get lost, like he said, think of it as a donation to the network. You're making it more secure. And the people that, find their keys, or supposedly there's this rumor going around, and again, I haven't verified this, that some guy was in a coma for like 5 or 10 years and he just moved all this Bitcoin. I don't know if I buy that. I did see hear several stories in the last 24 hours of like all of these like veteran OGs are like dumping. And I said that that was the case for several months now, that's the main thing that we're fighting here is we have retail dumping on Wall Street, right? Wall Street's buying massive amounts of BTC through the ETF. Let me just pull this up, and then we'll get into more of the bulk of the show. Let me see if I have it. Here it is. So just yesterday, look how much. What was that? Almost $602 million in Bitcoin ETF inflows just on the 2nd of July, right? So just the other day. That's a lot. And again, the amount that is being bought up by the spot ETF isn't being replaced fast enough by the miners, but in this case, it's being replaced by the degenerate gamblers, right? So the people, the longs and shorts are getting liquidated, and that puts money back into the economy, right? That's the circular economy of Bitcoin. Anyway, today's show is mainly about why is it important? Why is it vital, right? Why is it vital that we stack Satoshis, right? And there are some people that say that you need 1 Bitcoin, and there are some people that say you need, you know, the block size, right? 3.12 or 3.13, because I always round up. No one ever points that out, that my birthday is also a block size. But yeah, I don't think you need more than 0.05 or 0.01, because that's how much money is going to be coming into the Bitcoin ecosystem. But why is it vital that you are stacking Satoshis? Because again, all of this from 5 years ago, right? So from these new injections they want people to put in themselves is another form of control, right? That was all about control, so they could control your health, right? And obviously control your freedoms and your movements, right? And then that gets into, you know, your finances, your identity. Can they control these things? We've already seen this in China, where you say something wrong in China, and then all of a sudden your train pass isn't working, right? You can't leave a geo-fenced area. It might be your city, it might be your province, but they have these abilities already, right? And this video we're going to watch is from I think his name's Dr. Mike Yaden, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull that up. I have it right over here on my X tab. All right, I got it. And we're going to watch the first like 15 minutes. So hold on. This is going to get real serious, but then it's all going to make sense in about minute 7 or 8.
I assume most people have not heard of me. Most people. I am a lifetime research scientist. I worked for 32 years in the pharmaceutical industry and biotech. My most senior positions were at Pfizer. I was vice president and worldwide head of research in allergic and respiratory diseases. Since 2020, I have been speaking out against the fraudulent pandemic and the intentionally dangerous injections. And my experience has been to have been censored and smeared, largely. So if you've not heard of me before, that's the reason, that censorship and smearing is the experience of people who try and tell you true things that the authorities don't want you to hear. I don't want to give up because I'm, nothing to say, but I think I've said enough that if anyone's looking at what I've said or is looking for me, they can find me easily enough. And if they're not, putting out another 10 videos or 100 videos is not going to reach them. So I think there'll be things for me to do. I think this could easily be a year of major change, but I can't see the point in doing that much more, frankly. I've done over 300 video and audio interviews, and I'm more concerned than I was in 2020, 21. I'm more certain, unfortunately, I wish I wasn't, I'm more certain of the concerns I have there. People with the not vaccines, I got a much better understanding of all of the work that's preceded it. When I first spoke, when I did a major interview in 2021, I was at that point sure that there wasn't a pandemic, or at least whatever was happening had been deliberately and through planning exaggerated to frighten people. And
Oh my gosh. Sorry, are we still connected? Of course, now I got like 1 million chats now. All right, sorry, my internet's being stupid. I just disconnected something and I'm trying to connect to a different internet and it won't let me because Microsoft is stupid as per usual. I'm going to hit play again.
Health threat. So why would you want to be injected? My thinking has advanced quite a lot since then, which I may talk about later in this interview. But it's not possible for the injections to be of help to anybody. It's literally not possible. Every medicine, every molecule, constituent of every medicine is in there because somebody chose to put it in there. Hopefully for good reasons, but they put it in there for a purpose, to stabilize something or make it big enough to swallow in the form of a tablet. If you just have the active ingredients in some drugs, it's too small to see. So you need to formulate it with what are called excipients. So, but when I spoke before, I could see multiple features in the so-called vaccines that was not necessary, even if I believed the lies about what I was being told about these things. Even if you believed them, it would not be necessary to incorporate certain features about them. And so my bottom line is, I think, and I'm well qualified to make this claim, probably better qualified than any other single person speaking out. They have been designed intentionally to injure, kill, and reduce fertility. I've never claimed it would do it to a lot of people or that it would be quick. In fact, specifically, I remember saying at the time, I don't think they want to risk injuring and killing too many people early on because people will spot it. What I expected once I started looking around and noticing other things, like there was a talk of electronic money, getting rid of cash. And there was talk of digital ID. I remember Tony Blair trying to do that in the 90s. And frankly, I joined the dots and I could see a world in which you were required to have digital ID, that cash was removed, so you had to spend only using digital money. And I thought, you know what? If I was the evil person, I would say that your digital ID will not be valid unless you're up to date with your injections. And I came across a document from the EU. It's called EU Vabeco, V-A-B-E-C-O. And it's a scheme that started in 2018. Bottom line is the EU Commission anticipates a future in which every EU citizen has a digital ID whose validity is governed by whether or not they've been injected with the latest mRNA-based, quote, vaccine. So they anticipate regular injection for the rest of your life. That's, you know, and the idea is it'll improve health and safety as you travel around, which is a lie. It's a lie. You being vaccinated doesn't protect anybody. In fact, I would recommend no one has any vaccines at all, from what I've discovered in the last year or so. But, you know, honestly, when have governments ever given a flying one about your health and safety? You must know that a claim that you must do something for your health and safety is what is called, it's an excuse, it's an ostensible reason. These people who are trying to take our lives away from us always use two things. It's always two things. They'll tell you about something using the excuse, the ostensible reason. So in this case, it'll be you have to be jabbed to protect you from marauding viruses. The real reason is I'm afraid they want to make you ill and kill you. That is the truth. It's absolutely clear. There's really only one senior institution. It's a group of people who you can see as supranational groups from the UN, WHO, the International Panel on Climate Change, the World Economic Forum, you know, Bilderbergs. You should see them as the same. They're different manifestations. Trilateral Commission. Keir Starmer's a member of the Trilateral Commission, the only elected British politician who's a member of this globalist group, at least that particular one. They're all founded by the same group of people. They've been running for decades to much longer than a century. And I believe they believe their destiny is to control all us little people, all us. They see us as useless eaters. Useless eaters. Where have you heard that phrase before? What happens to useless eaters, do you think? I think they believe it's their destiny, maybe their obligation, to take control of everyone, everywhere, forever, using digital means. So digital ID, digital money, geolocation, and an obligation to be injected, something like that. You don't need much more than that. The control mechanism is so frighteningly simple. I warn people, and I'm not going to sign up for digital ID. I'm probably going to regret that statement, but you don't need a new global single format editable digital biometric ID. But that's what digital ID means. Single global editable biometric digital ID. I'm warning you. I'm trying to help. It's the last really important decision you will get to make. If you sign up for it, the people who are taking over do not require your consent, your collaboration, you to do anything after that. And this is why I'm going to tell you why. Even I, as someone who's not involved in finance, I'm clever enough to see that the debts of all major countries has been deliberately piled on and escalated to the point where it's obvious to all of us that the debts can never be repaid. We're struggling even to service the interest on the loans. So at some point, I predict with great confidence that an event like 2008, the global financial crisis, only 1,000 times worse, will occur. And that will mean every country is bankrupt at the same time. All businesses would be bankrupt at the same time. And to find out what will happen to you, if like me, you're sort of comfortable and middle class, early retired and got a bit of saving, you should be really frightened what I'm going to tell you. David Rogers Webb. David Rogers Webb. He is my matching half in finance. He's a retired hedge fund manager who discovered that the laws pertaining to private property rights have been altered over the last 50 or 60 years surreptitiously in every country on the planet. So when you think you own something, I invite you to look in. If you've got an investment account, you will find now, you won't find any statements to do with ownership. You'll only find the phrase beneficial owner, beneficial ownership. It makes no difference most of the time. You can buy it and sell it. Let's say it's shares, stocks, bonds. You can receive dividends and so on. But the small print says, in the event of a large enough default, all the financial intermediaries who owe money to the people they borrowed it from, and then they owe money to the people they borrowed it from, in the event of a large enough default, the senior your assets will occur, I think, within hours of a large enough financial crisis that I've just discussed. So even if you didn't think anyone was plotting against you, I think you would agree with me that, in fact, I factored in it when I was doing retirement planning. I assumed there would be at least one other 2008 during my life, and I set out my affairs so that I would probably be able to survive that. But we can't survive this. So yes, I think there will come a time between now and 2030 where legally all your assets will be stolen. I remember there's a lady called Catherine Austin Fitz, who's a finance lady. She says, I believe that possession, where we're talking about objects, not humans, but where it comes to objects, you really only own it if you can sit on it and defend it at the point of a gun. And I know she says it to get a laugh, but there is something to that. if you've left any assets with a third party, maybe you own some gold and it's in the bank. Maybe you do have, a large pension with a financial intermediary. Upon a large enough financial crisis that is being engineered, because, as I'll explain in a moment, look how useful this is. At the moment of that big enough financial crisis, all of the institutions will be bankrupt and all of the assets will be moved legally, stolen legally, and they will belong to the senior secured creditors, because those assets have at some point been used in a financial transaction. There's no point in you protesting that they haven't told you they borrowed it and it's not really theirs. This has been tested in a major court in New York, where one financial institution was both the custodian and acting on behalf of senior creditors. So it stole the assets of another of its clients. And it went to court, and I'm afraid it was found that they were legally able to do that. So David Rogers Webb, a free book called The Great Taking is my gift to you. You should go and read that. So that's part of the takeover. It is a takeover. It's a global coup. And I've explained that if you sign up for digital ID, it'll be the last really important decision you make, because your digital ID will be the only thing that your governments, institutions, and anybody authorized by those holding power will recognize you through. So you won't exist anymore. You'll be replaced by a QR code. You are not a number. You're an address to some resources. And that makes it particularly dangerous, because those resources can be edited. And one of those fields, for sure, will be your vaccination status. And I'm absolutely sure, because I've seen it written down in multiple documents, that your digital ID will only remain valid if you comply with the conditions of validity. So one of them will be, have you had your latest recommended or mandated jabs? And because of the fact that I'm qualified in toxicology and worked for decades with others in what's called rational drug design, when I look at these jabs, the constituents, I am certain, formally certain, that they were designed to hurt you. And so, the digital ID will lose validity unless you roll your sleeve up. You must see that's designed to injure and, I believe, ultimately kill you. But you won't be able to escape that, because all your money will also be associated with your digital ID. So let's say you've gone to a supermarket, you want to buy a drink and a sandwich. You'll beat them through and it'll say, how do you pay? And it'll say, present your digital ID. And the cash register, as it were, the cashless system, won't proceed until you show it your QR code. And if you're not vaccinated, and if that means your digital ID is not valid, it will say, sorry, transaction refused. The merchant.
So this is why Satoshi's and stacking sats is vital, right? Because if they have a digital ID, and this is another topic we'll get into, just might as well just jump into it. Your ID should be decentralized ID, right? Not a digital ID per se, but a decentralized ID. That's what we're looking for in the future. And all of it comes back to having decentralized finance, right? If every transaction you do is centralized, it's really easy to go click and you're not doing transactions anymore, right? On a side note, I want to get into what I just experienced with Microsoft. Are you crazy, Microsoft? Are you batshit insane? Like, I just was trying to switch from my home internet, which is splotchy at best during the summertime because the bandwidth is so sapped because there's so many extra tourists in town, that I was like, oh, I'll just use my hotspot on my phone. So I tried this last time and it was too convoluted because I've never done the new steps with the newest updated Windows. Wow, are you guys crazy? Like, seriously, this is not joking. I go in there, I click on it, it's like connect. And it's like, well, I've never given you the key, so how could you just connect? And I kept trying it and trying it and trying it. And then I found my home network and was like, oh, there's a properties. Oh, how come there isn't a properties on my phone hotspot one? Oh, because there isn't. That's stupid. So fix your UX and UI on that, Microsoft, because anybody who's anybody is trying to put in the key. So you know what I had to do? I have a HP. So I had to hit control, and then I hovered over my network. And when you hit control and you hit the mouse pad, that is like right clicking. So properties came up there, right? I click on, I can see my hotspot. They auto generate this QR code. How funny is that? Because that's why I wanted to bring it up, with their own little key in there. And I'm like, well, that's not the password, so this isn't going to work. So I scan their QR code and I'm like, okay, maybe somehow they got my key and they converted it into this key. And I was like, well, that's too high tech for them, bro. That's actually like smart cryptography. And they're hiding my key, but they're using this key QR as like the public key, right? So if somebody wants, if it comes up, you can scan it. We've already got the password. If somebody's monitoring your screen, that's not the real password, right? Anywho, like I said, there's another little tab when it comes up there. It says security. I click on that and I go, well, this isn't the key. So I had to actually put in the key, then go back. They kick out the QR code. You scan the QR code. Boom. I was connected. It's like, oh my God. Are you really doing that? Yes, they are. So that's a big pain in the butt. If you're just trying to switch networks and you've done it a million times by clicking on password, put in the password. No, that doesn't even come up anymore. Yeah. Horrible UX and UI. Anyway, we're on, and this is another reason people are like, why do you still pay AT&T like $100 a month for service? Because my phone's mobile internet, and I worked for AT&T, it runs around like 30 to 40 megabits down per second. Yeah, not joking. My home internet, it's somewhere between 15 and 25 on any given second. And that's why we always have problems, especially in the summertime. Anyway, let's get back to it. I hope somebody from Microsoft was listening. That's the most horrible UX and UI for switching networks. I'm just saying. I feel a little bit, get a little venting there. But let's get back on topic. We're going to get back to one of my videos to explain exactly what I'm saying. I made this video May of last year warning that stable coins and all of this monitoring is coming, and why you need sats and not the ETF and not this S coin that you think's going to make you gazillionaire. And let me pull up that one right now.
Howdy, folks.
Okay, here it is. I'm going to hit play.
Howdy, folks. So, why it is imperative that you start stacking sats, why you start saving in Bitcoin. And this is the main reason. So the CBDCs are coming, right? They just made the announcement the other day that JP Morgan and all these other banks are working on a interoperable blockchain platform to use their, Fed coin on. So the main reason you need to stack sats and start saving in Bitcoin is because these CBDCs will have expiration dates. Now, I don't think they'll be as short as time frame as they are in China, but they will have like a 365 day, like a 366 day expiration, or maybe a 2 year, right? But it will stop you from having the ability to save at all. So if you want to be able to save for the future, you must start saving in Bitcoin. Facts. Take care, and please share.
Yeah, this is this video is probably the most viral video that I've made in the last couple years. It's not my most viral video. Of course, one of my most viral videos is just this dumb video I made it as a joke, and literally it went from like a couple views to like I want to say 30,000 views in like a day. But this is probably the most viral I've made in a while, and it is, again, it is vital that you learn why Bitcoin is important, right? I tried to explain this to somebody at work the other day, and they got really, you know, people get upset when you ego check them, right? And they thought I was, you know, saying that they were dumb, and I was like, no, I'm not saying you're dumb. That's not the words that came out of my mouth. What I said was, you need to study Bitcoin more, because what they were saying was patently false, right? And I didn't want them to like there's going to be a huge portion of America that's like doesn't deal with Bitcoin, right? Because they don't get it, right? They don't understand it, and they're going to be force-fed their Tether or their Tether, you know, cousin or lookalike, USDC, Tether. And I've always said, will I have to use these? Yes, I probably will. Will I save in these vehicles? No, I won't. That's just me, because people that have extra money and real wealthy people don't save in stable things, right? They don't save in dollars. They might have a bank account with dollars in it, but they don't put their money to work in fiat terms. They put their money to work, right, in property, right, in a rental property, in a sales property, in commercial real estate, in gold, in silver, in Bitcoin, right? Things that are volatile, right? You don't see them as volatile, but they are. They go up and down in price. And things that go up and down in price make people money. Things that stay stable do not, right? Bond traders, yeah, good luck in the next 10 to 20 years. Unless it's Bitcoin bonds, I'm not interested, right? And the reason why you need sats, right? You don't want this wrapped Bitcoin. You don't want ETF Bitcoin. You want Satoshis in an actual L1 cold storage wallet or Satoshis in a Lightning wallet, so you can actually spend them. And this new de minimis idea of like a couple $100. Are you kidding me? This is a joke. Unless rent comes down to $300, it's not fair, right? You should be able to pay rent in Bitcoin. If you've got that much corn to do it, you should be able to. So they need to be adding a couple zeros. I said this the last time, right? $200, it should be like $20,000, right? Like, or 10K, because some people's rent is that much, right? Some people's rent's only a couple thousand, but it should be, right? I should be able to pay upwards of rent. Living costs should not be taxable. And I've been saying this since 2019, right? Bitcoin is money, so taxing it is a scam, right? And I saw Senator Lummis's tweet, and I shared it from like maybe like a week ago, saying we get the, you know, miners get taxed 2 times. No, they get taxed 3 times, right? You paying the electricity, there's a utility tax, right? There's another tax in there, so you're getting taxed in some cases 3 and 4 times. We're being taxed on our own money to invest it, right? Like cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Yeah, totally doesn't make any sense. You're triple, quadruple, quintuple dipping in some cases. No, we're done with this. I'm sorry. That's why this stuff was created, to stop, right? God sent us Bitcoin to stop the corruptors of money, right? Sent us Jesus to save our soul, right? And he sent us Bitcoin to save us from the evil doers that keep debasing money, right? They're going to, like, right in this beautiful bill. Let's talk about that for a hot second. And I've been saying this because I've been studying, you know, global macroeconomics for 20 some years, right? Or almost 15, 20 years. When they say they're going to do a big print, you need to take that number, multiply times 3, and then you're in the ballpark of how much money they're really going to print. So they're telling you $5 trillion. Bullshit. They're going to be printing about 15 to 20 trillion. That's the real number. Facts. F-A-C-T-S. I said this when in 2020 when they're like, oh, we need to save the economy. We're going to give everyone free money. I was like, cool, but not cool, because who doesn't like a free paycheck? But then when they said, oh, it's only going to be like 3 or 4 trillion, I was like, bull crap, multiply times 3. And that's literally the amount they spent. They spent about 12 to 14 trillion with all the money they spent on the jab to all the money that they spent on giving away free money. It was a lot. So in the same fashion, the same thing happened in 2008. Oh, we're only going to print X. Yeah, it was 3 times that as well. So don't be surprised in 10, you know, what is it, 2025 and 2035. We're like, yeah, we only spent, you know, 17 trillion to save us. There's pros and cons, right? Obviously, yes, if you want us to stay liquid, they're going to have to print more money. These are facts. If America really wants to pay down its debt, then you should be stacking corn to the ceiling, right? They obviously should look at budget neutral ways, because if they just print to buy corn, that's going to speed up the hyperinflation, right? So that's not a good idea. We need to start what I've been talking about for the last, I want to say 1 to 2 years, is very similar to the Tennessee Valley Authority, right? That was started during the Great Depression, still exists to this day. But it's called the BMA, right? The Bitcoin Mining Authority. I texted Bo Hines about this. I will keep screaming this from the mountaintops until I'm on the committee. But basically what the Bitcoin Mining Authority is going to do, because I'm going to talk about it like it exists already, because everything I usually think of comes to fruition. So I'll keep thinking this way. The objective of the BMA is to have offices in all 50 states, right? From Alaska to Hawaii and everywhere in between, at the Capitol. And then they have offices, you know, obviously, hopefully at some point in every county of every state. And what they do is they go around and they look for wasted energy, people that want to build energy projects that are much smaller than energy companies want to invest in, right? So also waste, right? There's that company in Pennsylvania that's taking the coal waste and getting rid of that, right? There is what Quantum Expeditions is doing, right? With the flared gas, right? Because that methane is literally, I want to say it's like 4x more harmful to our atmosphere than even carbon is. Because, right, carbon's good for certain things and bad for other things, right? Well, methane's bad for everything. So that's cleaning that up, right? There's also, I said about a year ago, that dumps, right? Guess what? A new problem that's created from climate change is that the methane that is built up in these dumps, it becomes even stronger. More gas is emitted because the hotter temperatures in summertime are leading to these gases coming out. And guess what? Bitcoin can fix that, right? So we go around to all of these places, all these dumps, all these methane flares, oil fields that are wasting, right? Wind turbines that are generating tons of energy during the windy season. And guess what? It's early spring. Well, nobody's turning on their AC yet, right? In certain parts of the country, it's still in early spring. Like I live in the mountains about 3,600 feet up, you know, in March and April, it can still be 30 degrees in the morning before it gets to the 50s and 60s. Solar farms, the same thing. When they're generating tons of energy and no one's using it, they're literally throwing away millions of dollars. And then eventually they get into this deficit, just like a Bitcoin miner does, because this is why I said Bitcoin miners would get into energy production. Hello, I was right on that one. The same thing applies. If you're this huge solar farm and you're generating all this energy and no one's buying it, well, at some point you hit a deficit and you just go, and then you close shop, and then it looks like solar is not efficient. Well, guess what? Solar is very efficient, but it's only efficient in certain times of the year. Bitcoin makes it viable. Bitcoin, again, is the carbon credit. It's the distribution credit. It's the methane flare credit. It's the I'm cleaning up your dump credit. I'm cleaning up this garbage credit. It is going to fix almost everything. Now, it can't fix everything, but in financial universes, it can fix all of these shenanigans. And it makes, again, it was sent to stop all of this print, right? That is the biggest scam that the wealthy has pushed on us for 2,000 plus years, right? They go, how are we going to, invade new countries? Oh, we'll tax people, right? Oh, well, we taxed everyone. What are we going to do now? Oh, we'll clip coins, right? And then they had to mill coins, so you couldn't do that, right? And now we're at the point where they're like, oh, we just print tons of money. Yeah, well, that's not fair to everyone who puts in 40 plus hours a week, right? It's just not. And Bitcoin stops this BS right in its tracks. And that's what I was trying to convey to my friend at work, because he's a smart guy. He owns some investments, but at the same time, he's got the degen side of him, right? He's like gambling on one of these like gambling games where it's like, oh, you hit, literally they have this game. I think it's like stake.com or something like that, which stay away, run away. It's almost like that game from the 80s on your computer, Minefield or whatever. And if you miss a mine, you win money. You hit a mine and it's gone. Again, stay away from all that stuff, right? Stay away. Like all of these apps that you see, you see all these people will tell you Bitcoin is dangerous and a scam. But then there's 5 million versions of solitaire that connected to PayPal that tell you can win thousands of dollars a day. Bullshit. Scams. Those are just as big as scams as some of these S coins that are out there, right? And then people become obsessed on these casual games thinking they're going to win a couple G's. They see one person win 2K and they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. No, you're not. It's a scam. All of those games, the solitaire games, the slot games, all of them, scams. And Bitcoin is going to teach you that is a scam and that you should be stacking sats for your future. Because like I said in that video, you're not going to be able to save for long time frames. It's not going to happen. They will program that money to be geo-fenced and have a timestamp and an expiration date on it. Facts. We know this. Everyone in this space knows this. So if you want to be every little transaction monitored, then again, go run into the matrix arms wide open. But the Bitcoiners are trying to stop you from doing that, right? When we say have fun staying poor, we're not trying to be mean. We're trying to explain to you that they're going to keep robbing from you, right? They're going to keep robbing Peter to pay Paul and pull this scam over and over and over again until you opt out. And the only opt out is proof of work chains, right? Bitcoin is the #1 granddaddy of them all. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Litecoin. I'm wearing a Dogecoin t-shirt right under this. So proof of work is important, right? And this is perfect segue into my other video that I made the other day about why proof of work and ZK rollups are important. And let's get into that one. Give me one sec. Okay, I'm going to warn everyone again for the umpteenth time. So Robinhood has built their own L2 for RWAs on Arbitrum. Coinbase is trying to build their own on Base. No, SEC, do not approve this. There is huge holes in optimistic rollups. You can literally fake orders in the batches, and then they're settled on L1, and then what? Oh, they stick. So do not do this. Full stop. They should be built on ZK rollups, right? So there is a few chains to do this on, right? Obviously, not those two. And I know they have the most money, and I know they have a lot of good developers. However, if you just do 20 minutes worth of research, you'll understand why optimistic rollups are very dangerous for real world assets. It should be done with ZK rollups. This full stop. And guess who's building something to do this right now? And it's going to be launched very soon. It's called LitVM. And literally, Litecoin will then become the interoperable chain between all the L2s for the EVMs. So that's BSC, that's Ethereum, all Ethereum's L2s, Monero, Bitcoin, everything. And why is that important? Because it's built on ZK rollups. And when these L2 transactions, which will be done on Litecoin, they will be solid. There's a huge difference. Learn, go read, but do not approve Robinhood's or Coinbase's RWAs, RVN. Remember that. Yeah, so I think I bookmarked. Give me a second. Yeah, so here it is. And let's take a look. And I want to explain this to people. So you can go to this website, right? There's this website called Code for Arena. If you're not familiar with Ethereum audits or smart contract auditing, this is a site that is literally a public site where you can go and audit contracts, and you can also read the reports from people that have audited these contracts. So I want to get into this. This is one of the, I think I found, like right out of the gate, I found 3 or 4 alarming audit reports. And this is one straight out of that, right? So let's just read this one that I circled and the one below it. Attacker can DDoS, because I think that's an error, but attacker can DDoS optimistic listing with very low cost. So that means they can just spam the smart contract with a very small amount of money. Not good. But then read the one below it. Funds are then permanently stuck in that optimistic listing seaport contract if active proposal is executed after new proposal is pending. And then read the one under that. User loses collateral converted to pending balance when cash, parentheses, or list, parentheses, is called. And I love that I can't see the bottom one. I think that's just a little clip, but attacker can steal the amount collected. Okay. Do I need to read any more? This is why real world assets should not be done on OP rollups whatsoever. I'm a big proponent, right, of proof of work. So what is the proof of work chain that you should be looking at that does this? It's called the Raven network, right? RVN. If you're not familiar, go do your research, but it runs on a very good algorithm. I think it's like the X16 or something like that. Double check my math on that. But there's actually miners that mine it, right? And that's the most important level of, and why proof of work is so important. The base layer of incentivization is these bunch of people running these computers, right, protect the network, right, with their hash rate, right? They defend the network and they get paid for that. That's why proof of work is so vital, right? And why Robinhood and Coinbase trying to do real world assets on an L2 that has more holes than a sieve is F-tarded. Full stop. I'm sorry. It can be done on, there's a whole bunch of ZK rollup chains right now. Obviously, Litecoin is trying to implement this strategy as well because they understand the importance of not only having a solid chain, right? But not being to have these faked orders that could be placed, right? This could also be done on Bitcoin, right? If the OpCat proposal gets approved and the network switches, that makes the Lightning network solid, right? It makes them, I'm pretty sure, double check my computer engineering, but that would make the Lightning network Turing complete, if I'm not mistaken. Double check my math. And if that's the case, we could do all these RWAs on Bitcoin as well. But you want them done on a proof of work network that's potentially doing an L2 with ZK rollups. Because the zero knowledge proofs, it adds a huge layer of privacy. It makes the there's also these things called bulletproof proofs. It does make them almost bulletproof, and that's a huge difference from these OP rollups, where again, attacker can DDoS the listing with very low fees. Yeah, no, that sounds great. Let's dive right in. But go to Code 4 Arena. Don't take my word for it, right? But I did put out that warning to the SEC and FINRA that you clearly need help, y'all, because if you let these guys greenlight it, I am telling you, shenanigans will happen within the first 2 weeks of them doing this, because the people that know about these holes, right, they will come a-gunning for your network, right? Whether it's Base or it's Robinhood's network on Arbitrum, it doesn't matter. They will poke holes all through your ish and laugh in the process. So again, don't listen to me. Go to Code 4 Arena, put in optimistic rollups and see how many audit reports come up, and just go read a couple. Now, if you're technical like I am, it'll make sense. If you're not so technical, go to YouTube and go, watch some videos of people like me that know what they're talking about. Because most of the time I tell people, ever since I had a Telegram group, I don't do my Telegram group as much as I used to, but I've been doing analytics in this space for about a decade now. And there's a whole bunch of people that come around every cycle that claim to know what they're talking about, and they just lies, right? They don't. In some cases, these people don't even know how a Bitcoin wallet works, or an Ethereum wallet works, or how a Lightning network wallet works, or how to even use any of those things. Like, if you can't use an ETH wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, or a Lightning wallet, or an L2 wallet, why should I listen to anything you have to say about this space? I won't. I just won't. And I see people say stuff like this all the time, right? There's that clip from that guy in the UK just the other day, like, cuckoo, cuckoo, right? That's my next latest prediction. All these KOLs are going to zero real fast against Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's going to show that a lot of these key key opinion leaders are just big scammers. And you guys have been funding their big scam lies for years because they pretend to know what they know. And that guy's even got a degree from Oxford, and he said that crazy ish, right? And here's what he said. I think Satoshi is on a campaign, and he's literally doing a marketing campaign to convince people, and he's selling his Bitcoin to advertise to people to buy Bitcoin, and then he's secretly selling his Bitcoin. I'm like, wow, bro, you said that aloud in front of a lot of people. Pew! No, all the Bitcoiners are laughing at you, bro. And that's why I was trying to help my friend the other day. I don't want you to say that kind of stuff in front of a group of Bitcoiners, and we're all just going to go, because that's how stupid you sound, right? You're literally saying stuff. If Satoshi even moves one coin, we know it's called the blockchain, bro. Maybe you should read a book or two on it. Just saying. But this is why it's vital, right? You saw the video from Mike, is it Yaden? Dr. Michael Yaden, right? Like this guy, he was the VP of research at Pfizer. So he's not lying about what he said about the jab. And then his buddy, who's like one of the top, I don't know if he was a trader or analyst. He's telling you what we're all telling you. This is all about control, right? And then the Genius Act passed. And don't get me wrong, stable coins are going to be important, but are these stable coins going to be decentralized stable coins, right? In most cases, they're not. They're going to be centralized forms of money, right? Like I've been stating for some time. Another reason proof of stake is very vulnerable and an attack vector, right? All of this data is stored on servers, right? Those servers go down, poof, it's gone, right? That is not the case with proof of work chains where there's nodes all over the globe, right? And if there's an attack in one part of the world, whether it's, a physical attack or it's just, let's say it's a solar flare, right? All the rest of the nodes globally are going to be operating, right? That is why another valuable point of proof of work, right? It is a decentralized system, right? Mobile telecom towers, they're decentralized, right? If there was just one mobile telecom tower in every town, every time like a lightning storm hit it or a windstorm took it down, nobody in that city could talk to each other. But that's not how we do it. We have mobile towers everywhere, right? They're all nodes. And if one of those nodes goes down, yes, traffic is rerouted through, the less amount of nodes that are out there, but it's not one centralized node like the Rogers network from a few years in Canada. It went down, and guess what? Oh, the fire companies can't talk to each other. The police can't communicate. Do you see where centralization becomes a huge problem, right? That's why we need decentralized solutions. Let me see. There's a few more things because I know we're about time for today, but I know I had some other good stuff to talk about. Let me just double check. Oh, yeah. Here's a great article from Alexander Loris. He wrote, I think it was yesterday or the day before. Oh, yesterday. This exactly what we're talking about. The fundamental reasons to buy and hold Bitcoin now. I probably touched on a bunch, but go read that article. Great piece from Alexander. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So just this one. This is, I said this, I think it was like 2 episodes ago when I started. I was doing research on I was just doing a little TA on the total coin market cap. And as I was doing that TA, I was like, oh my gosh, if this is a bull flag, I mean, we're going to like $7 to $10 trillion market cap in the next like 20 months or so. But anyway, let's listen to what is said. Bo Hines says in this this clip right here, which, surprise, right again.
Bo, it's great to have you here. Really appreciate not just you taking time out of your very busy day at the White House here at the Bitcoin conference, but to spend a few minutes with us. We really appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Fred. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're doing all this great work for the industry. I know you guys have the stablecoin, the Genius Act teed up, ready to go. What do you think the impact of that is going to be?
It's really monumental. First and foremost, I don't think it should be lost on anybody. We haven't had bipartisan legislation move out of Senate banking and actually get passed since 2018. I think our Democratic colleagues certainly understand that the United States needs to lead the charge in terms of updating our current financial systems. I've said repeatedly throughout this conference, everything else has evolved, right? The ways in which we communicate, the technology that we use, the ways in which we move money really hasn't. And I think that's shocking to a lot of people. But what Genius does, it permits instant settlement times, more cost-effective payments, more transparency. It secures U.S. our global dominance for decades to come. This should be the least partisan piece of legislation that ever moves through Congress. So, we feel very optimistic about where things stand. I think we picked up some 15 Democrats on the cloture vote. Hopefully next week we'll get this thing passed. We'll move it to the House and put it on the president's desk to be signed. The capital injection that goes into the digital assets ecosystem as a result of stables is enormous. I think that you're looking at probably an industry going to $15, $20 trillion, because what this does is it establishes really the foundation for all the exciting things that we've dreamed of. Tokenized public securities, 24/7 markets. If you want to access U.S. capital markets, you're going to have to use a dollar-backed stable. And this is what positions the United States to be the global leader. And in reality, we should be pushing this change. We should be at the forefront of adoption of digital asset financial technology and really leading the charge globally in that. It'll protect the U.S. economy. It'll certainly create innovation here in the United States, and that's something that we should all be excited about.
That's great. Obviously, anything that helps the price of Bitcoin helps all of us in the Bitcoin industry.
Well, that's right. I think that too, with this capital injection, being able to move in and out of different asset classes at will, naturally, Bitcoiners will benefit from that. People will be purchasing Bitcoin in large amounts, as they should. We've talked about repeatedly that we view Bitcoin as digital gold for all the reasons that we've laid out over the course of the past week and moreover, really over the course of the past few months. It's commodity, not a security, intrinsic stored value, finite. All the things we look for on the decentralization side. David likes to say that Bitcoin has the immaculate conception. I get asked all the time too, as we set up the strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's like, how much Bitcoin do you want? And I think that's a very silly question that journalists ask. We want as much Bitcoin as we can possibly accumulate. Now, obviously we have to do that in these budget neutral ways. But I think that there's many creative ideas out there that we can act on.
And, one of the great opportunities, I think, especially that solves two issues. One is helps the government accumulate Bitcoin and helps Bitcoin miners establish more hash rate in the U.S. is to partner with the U.S. government using energy potentially as a way to generate Bitcoin for the strategic reserve.
No, I think that that's a phenomenal prospect that we should certainly be keen on acting on. As we flesh out these ideas amongst the interagency working group, which First Digital Assets EO, the president likes to say he has a lot of high IQ people in his cabinet, and I think he's certainly right about that. So we'll work with Commerce, we'll work with Treasury, Secretary Lutnick, Secretary Bessent, to find these creative solutions. But I think that a public-private partnership between the miners could be a phenomenal way to accumulate Bitcoin for the reserve.
Well, we certainly look forward to being part of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your service.
Thank you, Fred.
So again, there's a ton of money coming for the space, right? This isn't a little bit of money. There's, easily $10 trillion coming into this space. And yes, a lot of it's going to go into the stablecoin networks. But you have to realize that a lot of these stablecoins are not as decentralized as people think, right? They run on Solana, they run on Ethereum. These are not decentralized networks. And again, that is very problematic when we're talking about power and energy and, and security, right? This is why you should be holding actual Bitcoin, L1 or L2, not this paper stuff, not this ETF, not wrap Bitcoin on Ethereum, not wrap Bitcoin on Solana. those networks go down, right? Especially Solana. Even though I own some Solana S coins, I always tell people, do I have a couple on Phantom and Soulflare? Yeah. But my biggest positions in any Solana S coin are on centralized exchanges, because if it hits my target, I have no liquidity issues, because that big exchange has no cares in the world. The computer, the algo sees it's up, and you got a big bag. Here, you want some USDC, you want some Litecoin, you want some Bitcoin? Sure, here you go. But they go down, right? Solana goes down. Let's be very clear. XRP even went down a couple of months back, right? XLM's gone down. All of these DPoS networks that, again, as somebody who's been in the space now for 10 years, proof of stake is problematic. Proof of work is way more secure, way more reliable, way more durable. And that's, again, when somebody tries to teach this to people, and when you get into L2s, you know, it muddies the water for a lot of people. It's like, what do you mean I gotta move this stuff and bridge it over here and do this and put it in this silo? And like, even my friend from Philadelphia, who's been in this space for like just as many years as I have, a couple years ago, she put some USDC onto the Matic rails, right? So she put the USDC into L2 onto Matic's rails, and then she wanted to use that USDC and spend it somewhere else. And she's like, what? I was like, you have to convert it, you know, get Matic and then convert it into ETH or something else, and then send it to that exchange. But she didn't understand that she couldn't just send that USDC to like, Kraken's L1 for USDC on Ethereum, right? And some of these exchanges will let you pick the network, like Crypto.com and Coinbase and a few others. They all, oh yeah, you can slide it around on these other networks. But to me, again, if we want to simplify this for people who, again, aren't very tech savvy, Bitcoin L1 is your savings. Litecoin L1 is your checking. Simple as that. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to me ramble on and teach and talk analysis about Bitcoin. Thanks so much, Nick, for putting up with my little slow internet issue. And thank you for everyone that came and watched the show, because I know it is a holiday. Happy 4th of July. Again, I want to thank my sponsors at Quantum Expeditions, Deorganized Media, Bitcoin Live Network, Shieldfolio, and again, my producer, Nick, for always hanging out. I hope you feel better, buddy. And again, take care. God bless. Stack sats. Stay humble, as MattySats would always say. And that is some sound advice for the digital era. Peace.